The words fell like a gavel in the echoing meeting room. The HOA president, Karen, with her signature helmet of blonde hair and frosty stare, sat smugly as the other board members nodded in silent approval. My pulse pounded in my ears. 5. People who had made our lives hell for months now sat there, convinced they'd won. Another family silenced. Another house reclaimed in the name of community standards. They had no idea what was coming. The door to the meeting room swung open. Every head turned, and there she was, my wife, Lieutenant Jessica Ramirez, standing tall in her immaculate navy dress blues, service ribbons glittering beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. The silence was instant. Karen's smirk vanished. "Apologies for the delay," Jessica said, calm but commanding. Her voice carried the authority of someone used to giving orders on a warship. "Now, before we continue your attempt to evict a military family during active duty, I'd like a full explanation of which federal statutes you're planning to violate today." Karen turned ghost white. So did the rest of them. This wasn't how their little crusade was supposed to end. We were a regular family trying to build a life, just chasing the American dream. I'm Mark, an IT specialist. Jessica serves in the Navy. After years of saving, budgeting, moving from base to base, we finally bought our dream house, a charming colonial in a prestigious neighborhood with decent schools for our kids. During the home tour, the HOA seemed fine, reasonable. Some landscaping rules, a pool, security patrols. The realtor assured us it was all to protect property values. So we signed, moved in while Jessica was still on shore duty, and, for a while, it was perfect. We repainted using the HOA-approved palette, replaced the mailbox from their sacred. Elist joined the neighborhood watch. We did everything right. Then Jessica got her deployment orders, 6 months on a destroyer in the Persian Gulf. 2 weeks after she shipped out, I came home to a violation notice duct-taped to our front door. Lawn exceeds maximum allowed height by 0.5 inches. I mowed immediately. Next day, another violation. Trash cans were out 4 hours past retrieval window. Then came the real barrage. Our approved basketball hoop, now non-compliant. Our American flag, improperly displayed. The flower bed Jessica had planted. Unauthorized vegetation. It didn't stop. I tried to explain. I was solo parenting. My wife was deployed overseas. Karen just smiled coldly. Rules are rules. We don't make exceptions. But when I looked around the neighborhood, I saw other homes with basketball hoops, flags, flower beds just like ours. This wasn't about rules. We were being targeted. The harassment escalated fast. I received a certified letter. Daily fines of $100 for continued non-compliance. The list of so-called violations was absurd. Excessive foot traffic, our kids playing outside. Improper window coverings, my daughter's blackout curtains. Unauthorized vehicle, my father-in-law's truck when he came to help. Within weeks, the fines totaled over $2,000. I contested everything, sent photos proving other homes did the same things. No response, no explanations. Just rejection after rejection. Then came the final blow. Due to your ongoing violations and aggressive attitude, the HOA will pursue a lien against your property and initiate foreclosure proceedings. I sat at the kitchen table with the letter, trembling in my hands. They weren't just making our lives miserable anymore. They were trying to take our home. Jessica's deployment pay was covering the mortgage, just barely. We'd put everything into this house, $30,000 in renovations, our savings, our hope for stability after years of moving. If we lost it now, we couldn't afford anything else in the area. Our son was finally getting therapy that worked. Our daughter had joined the soccer team. This house wasn't just real estate, it was ours. At night, I'd video call Jessica from my phone trying not to sound broken. They're trying to break us." I said it quietly, ashamed of how defeated I felt. She listened, eyes heavy with concern, knowing she couldn't come home yet. Not then. I tried everything. Hired a landscaper. Repainted trim that didn't need repainting. Took down the basketball hoop. Sent time-stamped proof of every fix. I even attended the HOA meeting with a folder of evidence. I thought maybe, just maybe, reason would win. It didn't. They smiled, nodded. "Thank you for your time," then handed me the eviction notice. And that's when Jessica came home, straight from deployment. She hadn't even stopped to change. The second she learned what they were doing, she requested emergency leave. She walked into that meeting like a force of nature, calm, sharp, unshakable. And the HOA? They finally realized who they were messing with. When I stood to speak during the public comment period, Karen cut me off after 30 seconds. "Your time is up," she announced, though she'd let others speak for 5 minutes. Later, I overheard board member Doug in the parking lot. Military families don't belong here. Always coming and going, never committed to the community. That night, I called my neighbor Steve, who'd lived there for years. "They've done this before," he whispered. "Targeted families. They don't want manufactured violations until they leave. Nobody fights back because legal fees would cost more than moving." I realized then playing nice wasn't working. If they wanted a fight, they'd picked the wrong military family. 3 days later, I found an official-looking envelope taped to our door. Inside was a formal notice of covenant enforcement action with the HOA's embossed seal. Due to continued violations and outstanding fines now totaling $3,350, the association is exercising its right to begin eviction proceedings. You have 30 days to vacate the property or face legal action and additional penalties. They'd scheduled a final hearing, conveniently timed during Jessica's deployment, where they would vote on our eviction. The letter included photos of our home with circles around supposed violations so minor they were barely visible. A garden hose not fully wound. A slightly faded section of paint. A child's bicycle visible from the street. That same day, a process. Server delivered papers for a lien on our home. The HOA had already filed it with the county. Karen had gone nuclear. She wasn't just trying to push us out anymore. She was trying to take our home while my wife was serving our country. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I started researching HOA laws, desperate for anything that might help us. 4 cups of coffee later, I found it. The Service Members Civil Relief Act. The SC provides protections for active duty military members and their families, including safeguards against eviction and foreclosure during deployment. What the HOA was doing wasn't just cruel, it was potentially illegal under federal law. I dug deeper and discovered more. HOAs must follow their own bylaws and apply rules uniformly. I drove around taking pictures of other homes with the same violations. We were cited for, including Karen's own property with its unapproved garden statue and non-regulation mailbox. Then, I found the smoking gun in our closing documents. The HOA's own covenant stated they couldn't initiate foreclosure actions against deployed service members' families. For the first time in months, I felt hope. The HOA hadn't just picked the wrong family to harass. They'd chosen someone protected by federal law. I contacted the Navy's Legal Assistance Office and explained our situation. The JAG officer I spoke with was furious. "They're doing what?" "A while. Your wife is deployed." "Oh, we're going to shut this down fast." She emailed me information about the SC and housing discrimination against military families, along with a formal letter stating the HOA's actions were potentially violating federal law. I gathered every violation notice, every email, every photo of our compliant property alongside identical violations they ignored at other homes. During Jessica's next secure call, I explained everything. "I'm coming home," she said immediately. "I have emergency family leave available. But your deployment, Mark, they're trying to take our home. My commander already approved it when I explained. I land 2 hours before that final HOA meeting." Her voice took on the steel I'd heard before. Difficult missions. They have no idea who they're messing with. I'm bringing my uniform. The day of the hearing arrived. Jessica's flight was delayed, cutting our timing dangerously close. I paced our living room, reviewing our evidence one last time. The SC documentation, photos of other homes with identical violations, the HOA's own bylaws contradicting their actions. Our doorbell rang 3 hours before the meeting. Jessica stood there in her travel uniform, exhaustion visible on her face from the 30-hour journey home, but her eyes burned with determination. "Fill me in completely," she said after hugging the kids and me. I showed her everything, every notice, every fine, every photo. She read through the JAG officer's notes, making her own annotations. "They picked the wrong family," she said, her voice calm but resolute. "I've defended our country. I can defend our home." As we prepared to leave, she opened her garment bag and removed her pressed dress blues, the gold insignia catching the light. "Tonight," she said, "they learn what real authority looks like." The HOA meeting was held in the community center, a room I'd avoided for months. As soon as I stepped inside, the room went quiet. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. 30 neighbors turned in unison to stare, while the 5 HOA board members watched from their raised table like judges at a tribunal. At the center sat Karen, her expression tight, smile tighter. "Mark," she said, her voice clipped and falsely polite, "you've been given 5 minutes to present your case before the vote." 5 minutes. That's all they were offering to defend our home. I sat down alone in the front row. Jessica had insisted on arriving separately. "Timing is everything," she'd said. I didn't know exactly what she meant, but I trusted her. The board rushed through the rest of their agenda like it was a formality. Then Karen finally said it, with a flicker of satisfaction in her voice. "We're addressing the ongoing compliance violations at 742 Oakwood Drive. The board has documented 27 separate infractions over a 4-month period. Fines currently total $3,750. She clicked a remote. A slideshow of so-called violations flashed across a projector screen. Images of our lawn, our trash, cans, our kids' toys in the yard. One by one, they were weaponizing our everyday life. "As these issues remain unresolved," Karen continued, "the board will now vote on enforcing covenant penalties, including mandatory vacancy of the property." I opened my mouth to speak, to explain, to defend, but Doug, one of the board members, cut me off coldly. "That time passed months ago. This is merely a procedural vote." The others nodded in unison. To them, this was already over. And then the doors to the community center burst open. Every head turned. Jessica stood in the entrance, dressed in her navy dress blues, medals catching the light, gold lieutenant bars gleaming. Her presence sliced through the tension in the room like a blade. You could hear her footsteps echo across the tile floor as she walked to the front. Not a word was spoken, not a breath drawn. Karen's mouth hung open. Doug shifted in his seat. The neighbors, almost instinctively, straightened their postures. Because when someone walks into a room wearing a uniform like that, you pay attention. Jessica removed her cap and placed it on the table in front of the board. Then she turned to face them, hands folded behind her back. "Lieutenant Jessica Mitchell, United States Navy," she said evenly. "I've just returned from deployment in the Persian Gulf to personally address this matter." Her voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. It had the weight of command. "Before you vote to evict a military family while one member is serving overseas, I'd like to clarify exactly which federal laws you're prepared to violate." The silence was absolute. She laid down a printed document. The Service Members Civil Relief Act prohibits evictions of deployed service members or their families without a court order. Additionally, your own HOA covenants, Section 14(3), forbid foreclosure or forced vacancy against military households under active deployment. Then she opened a folder and began placing photos on the table, dozens of them. Houses with the same flag displays, the same flowers, the same basketball hoops, all untouched, all unpunished. These citations aren't just baseless, they're selectively enforced, Jessica said. That's discrimination against a protected class under federal housing law. The board members exchanged panicked looks. I've already consulted with Navy JAG, Jessica added calmly. If this proceeds, the Navy is prepared to pursue legal action under the SC Relief Act, up to $110,000 in fines per violation, plus criminal penalties. Karen's face drained of color. Doug looked like he wanted to sink into his chair. Jessica, wasn't done. Our attorney is also preparing a civil suit for discriminatory housing practices. Unless these fines are immediately dismissed and a formal statement issued halting all further harassment, we will proceed. The room stayed dead silent. Karen leaned over to whisper something to their visibly nervous lawyer. He nodded stiffly and stood. The board will need to deliberate in private. They filed out of the room like a line of schoolchildren headed to the principal's office. For the next 20 minutes, neighbors approached us, offering hushed apologies, shaking Jessica's hand. I had no idea they were targeting your family, one older resident said, his voice thick with regret. When the board returned, everything had changed. Karen spoke first, her voice flat. The board is dismissing all fines and recorded violations. The HOA's lawyer added quickly, all enforcement actions are hereby postponed indefinitely. We regret any misunderstanding regarding your property status, Karen mumbled. But it didn't stop there. Within a week, we received a formal letter of apology. 3 board members, including Karen, resigned suddenly and without comment. Then, the county opened an investigation into the HOA's financial practices, spurred by other residents who came forward with similar stories. That was 2 years ago. Jessica completed her deployment and was promoted soon after. We still live at 742 Oakwood Drive, now with a completely new HOA board. 2 of its members are veterans. Fairness is no longer optional. In fact, the previous board's conduct is now cited in HOA management training across the state, a cautionary tale in arrogance, abuse, and federal law. The day after the vote, our neighbors organized something we never expected, a barbecue in our yard, complete with balloons, flags, and a big homemade sign, "Welcome Home, Lieutenant Mitchell." In the days that followed, more neighbors came forward. Many admitted they'd stayed quiet out of fear, afraid of retaliation, of fines, of becoming the next target. But something had shifted. You showed us how to stand up to bullies, our next-door neighbor told us, tears in her eyes. We just needed someone to go first. We later learned that we weren't the first military family pushed out. 3 others had been forced to sell or relocate under similar pressure. With the Navy's legal support, they filed claims and received settlements to cover their moving expenses and losses. That's when it hit us. This was never just about our house, it was about the principle, the pattern, the silent harm done behind the shield of bureaucracy. Standing our ground wasn't only about keeping our home, it was about making sure no other family, military or not, would be quietly crushed under the weight of policy. There's power in knowing your rights, but there's real strength in choosing to fight back, especially when you're fighting not just for your family but for every family that comes after.